Many people are familiar with medications prescribed for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, commonly known as ADHD. Drugs like Adderall, which contains amphetamine salts, or Ritalin, which is methylphenidate, are designed to help individuals improve focus and manage impulsivity. These medications work by influencing certain neurotransmitters in the brain, particularly dopamine and norepinephrine, which play crucial roles in attention and behavior. When used under strict medical supervision and at prescribed doses, these pharmaceuticals can be highly effective and significantly improve the quality of life for those with ADHD. They are carefully formulated to provide a therapeutic effect, often with extended release mechanisms to ensure steady action throughout the day, minimizing sharp peaks and troughs in their levels within the body. Now let's turn our attention to methamphetamine. It is, indeed, a powerful stimulant that is chemically related to amphetamine, the active component in some ADHD medications. This relationship is often a point of confusion, and it's vital to understand the distinctions. Methamphetamine and amphetamine both belong to a class of drugs called phenethylamines. They share a core chemical structure, which explains why they can have some superficially similar effects on alertness and energy levels. However, a small structural difference, the addition of a methyl group to the amphetamine molecule to create methamphetamine, dramatically alters how the drug behaves in the human body, making it a far more potent and consequently a far more dangerous substance when misused. The presence of this extra methyl group makes methamphetamine more lipid-soluble. This means it can cross the blood-brain barrier much more rapidly and effectively than amphetamine. Once in the brain, it causes a more intense release of dopamine, flooding the brain's reward circuits. This rapid, powerful surge is what contributes significantly to methamphetamine's high potential for addiction and its more severe neurotoxic effects compared to most prescription amphetamines used for ADHD. While ADHD medications aim for a controlled and therapeutic increase in neurotransmitter activity, methamphetamine produces an overwhelming and often damaging effect, far beyond any medical application for attention disorders. Therefore, while a chemical similarity exists on paper, it's a dangerous oversimplification to equate prescribed ADHD medications with illicit methamphetamine. The dosages, purity, route of administration, and the specific chemical modifications lead to vastly different outcomes. ADHD medications are tools for managing a medical condition, developed through rigorous testing and used under careful medical guidance. Methamphetamine, particularly in its illicit forms, is a substance with a high risk of abuse, addiction, and severe health consequences, a world away from the controlled therapeutic environment of ADHD treatment. Understanding this difference is absolutely crucial for appreciating the distinct roles and risks these substances carry. The history of methamphetamine takes a particularly dark turn when we examine its use during World War II. In Germany, a methamphetamine-based stimulant called Pervitin was widely distributed not just to soldiers, but initially even marketed to the general public as a pick-me-up. The German military, however, saw its potential for enhancing soldier performance during demanding combat situations. They believed it could help their forces stay awake for extended periods, maintain alertness, and push through fatigue during intense offensives, such as the Blitzkrieg campaigns that relied on speed and relentless pressure. Reports from that era suggest millions of Pervitin tablets were supplied to the Wehrmacht. Similarly, in Japan, methamphetamine, known then as Philopon, also sometimes referred to as Hirapon, was used extensively by soldiers and even factory workers. The Japanese military also sought to exploit its stimulant properties to keep personnel functioning during long, arduous tasks and to bolster fighting spirit. Kamikaze pilots on their tragic one-way missions were reportedly given high doses of Philopon before their flights. The intention was to enhance their aggression, banish fear, and ensure they carried out their assignments without faltering. This wartime application underscores the extreme lengths to which nations went to gain a perceived edge, often with little regard for the long-term health of their own people. The use of these powerful stimulants undoubtedly had a short-term impact on the operational capabilities of some military units. Soldiers could march for longer, pilots could fly more sorties, and workers could endure longer shifts. However, this came at a significant cost. The side effects were often severe, including paranoia, psychosis, violent behavior, and extreme exhaustion once the drug wore off. Furthermore, widespread use led to problems with addiction among servicemen, creating a host of health and social issues that persisted long after the war ended. The initial perceived benefits were quickly overshadowed by the detrimental impact on individual health and discipline. This historical episode serves as a stark reminder of how substances with powerful physiological effects can be repurposed for objectives far removed from health or well-being. The pressure of war led to the mass administration of a highly addictive drug, masking its dangers with the promise of enhanced performance. It highlights a critical lesson about the seductive nature of stimulants and the ethical considerations that must always guide their use, especially when considering substances with such a high potential for harm. The soldiers effectively became unwitting subjects in a large-scale experiment with devastating consequences for many. It's important to acknowledge that a pharmaceutical-grade version of methamphetamine, known by the brand name Disoxin, does exist. However, its medical use is exceptionally rare and highly restricted. Disoxin is approved by regulatory bodies like the FDA for treating severe ADHD in some cases and occasionally for exogenous obesity, but only when other treatments have failed. The prescriptions are tightly controlled, dosages are very low compared to typical street use, and it is manufactured under stringent laboratory conditions ensuring purity and precise concentration. This medical context is a world away from the common perception and reality of methamphetamine abuse. In stark contrast, illicitly manufactured methamphetamine, often called crystal meth, ice, or tina, is a completely different entity. This substance is produced in clandestine, unregulated labs using a variety of volatile and dangerous chemicals. The production process itself is hazardous, often leading to explosions and toxic waste. More importantly for the user, street meth is notoriously impure. It can be contaminated with precursor chemicals, byproducts from the synthesis, or cutting agents added by dealers to increase volume and profits. These unknown additives can introduce a host of additional health risks beyond those posed by methamphetamine itself. The purity and dosage of street methamphetamine are wildly unpredictable. A user has no reliable way of knowing the strength of what they are taking, which dramatically increases the risk of accidental overdose. Even if the substance were relatively pure, the doses typically used by those abusing methamphetamine are many times higher than any medically indicated dose of Disoxin. This massive dosing contributes to the intense euphoric effects, the rapid development of tolerance, and the severe addiction potential that characterizes methamphetamine abuse. The methods of administration for street meth, such as smoking or injecting, also deliver the drug to the brain much faster, intensifying its effects and addictive liability. Therefore, while both substances might share a name and a core molecule, the difference between a rarely prescribed, low-dose pure pharmaceutical and the dangerous contaminated high-dose concoction sold on the street is profound. The existence of medical-grade methamphetamine does not in any way legitimize or reduce the dangers of its illicit counterpart. The clandestine nature of street meth production, its unknown composition, and the patterns of its abuse place it firmly in the category of a highly dangerous and destructive drug, with consequences far removed from any controlled therapeutic application. The effects of methamphetamine on the body and brain are extensive and often devastating. In the short term, users may experience a rush of euphoria, increased energy, and heightened alertness. However, these desired effects are often accompanied by dangerous physiological changes, such as a rapid heart rate, increased blood pressure, and elevated body temperature, which can lead to heart attacks, strokes, or seizures, even in young users. Psychologically, it can induce anxiety, paranoia, hallucinations, and aggressive behavior. The come down or crash that follows is typically marked by severe depression, fatigue, and an intense craving for more of the drug. Long-term methamphetamine use inflicts even more profound damage. The brain's dopamine system, which is so powerfully stimulated by meth, can become severely impaired. This can lead to anhedonia, a persistent inability to feel pleasure from normal activities, as well as cognitive problems affecting memory and decision-making. Chronic use is also associated with a condition known as meth mouth, characterized by severe tooth decay and gum disease, and significant skin problems due to poor hygiene, obsessive scratching, and malnutrition. The cumulative impact on physical and mental health can be catastrophic, leading to a drastically reduced quality of life and premature death if use continues unchecked. The question sometimes arises, could methamphetamine be safe if it were legal and regulated? Given its inherent properties, its high potency, rapid delivery to the brain, and profound impact on the dopamine system, the potential for addiction would remain extraordinarily high even with a pure, regulated supply. While regulation might reduce harms associated with impurities or unknown dosages found in street meth, it would not eliminate the core risks of addiction, neurotoxicity, and severe cardiovascular strain. The very nature of methamphetamine makes it exceptionally difficult to envision a scenario where it could be used safely on a wider recreational basis, without significant public health consequences. It is also true that some individuals who use methamphetamine may not fit the stereotypical image of a drug user. They might maintain jobs, relationships, and an outward appearance of normality, at least for a period. This hidden use can make it harder to recognize the problem and for the individual to seek help. However, the progressive nature of addiction means that this illusion of control is often temporary. The drug's powerful grip eventually tends to erode all aspects of a person's life. What we have learned underscores that methamphetamine is a substance with profound risks. The focus must remain on prevention, harm reduction for those already using, and accessible, effective treatment for addiction, rather than speculating on its potential for safe, widespread use.